Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of fascinating things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer, and I'm joined, as I always am, by my two buddies, both of whom I think spit hot fire about MMA. Wow. You know what? It's fucking hard to say. MMA. I always end up saying MMA. I can't say MMA. It's hard to say.
Do you know I had to have like an in-depth conversation with Dean, which for those who don't know is my almost 4-year-old son, where he couldn't get, he was like, no, it's MMA. I was like, no, it's actually MMA. He's like, no, it isn't. It's MMA. It's how it sounds when he's saying it. And then he like could not grasp it. It went on for like 5 minutes.
Kids are great. On that note about kids, my 3-year-old son took a huge dump in the toilet today. So
nice. Upgrade from the rug.
Yes.
Sounds
getting
like
a bit more consistent.
Every day.
Getting a bit more consistent. And I'm just saying I like the consistency.
Fair.
Okay, enough about my kids' shits. Let's talk about this episode. This week we're going to talk about UFC 300 that went down this past weekend at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going to talk about all of the fights from 300. And yeah, man, before we get into any of this fight talk, let's first thank our audience. If you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you guys that tune in and just be part of this conversation with us in any small way, whether it's watching or commenting. Speaking of, we love the comments down below. If you like any of our takes, let us know. If you disagree with any of our takes, we want to know your take down below, you silly MMA fan. Must be something wrong with you like there is with us, of why we are obsessed with this sport and have been for so many years now. If you want audio only, we got you. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're on social media. Find us on all the relevant and main platforms at @&new_MMA show. MMA show. All right.
Did you see we got another of the classic "I beat all of you up" comments this weekend?
No.
I never understand these comments. We've gotten like 10 of them, I feel like, over the years.
Or just like weird, vague threats.
What do you want? Do you want a cookie? Do you want to drop your address and I'll fucking mail you a cookie? Like what is it that you are looking to achieve here with this?
I missed this one. Somebody just threatened us like with violence.
Like he was like, I think
first
Holloway
of all,
wins and I would definitely fuck you all up. Like some shit like that.
Not this fucking chooch.
Thanks.
Not this
Thanks.
chooch.
What bro, that's what I thought too, but maybe it's who knows if it's even his picture or not.
There are dudes
dude saying this is like the biggest fucking nobody on earth, but
I'm sure
who knows? Could be some fighter. But
just could be. I'm gonna go with no.
The need to say it. It's like what? Okay, what do you want?
If he looks anything like he looks like in his profile picture on YouTube, I'm gonna go with I can kick him in the face.
I just think. I mean, I don't want to give it any energy. Negative comments and just shit talkers in comment sections on the internet. I try not to. Sometimes I do get a little like in my feelings about it, and I'll start to reply, and then I'm just like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
It's a very odd. It's a very odd dynamic to me though, like because at some point, like it's one thing once from one person's perspective, right? When you see the comment and it's there, and you're like, wow, what an asshole, right? But then, like when you really think about it, somebody really took the time to type some shit out. You know what I mean? And there's a real sickness to that mentality.
Right. I was just gonna say, like it's a weird phenomenon of what the internet has done and sort of unlocked in people's personalities. Like, why? Like, I don't understand it personally because I think that I am a well-adjusted person with like social decency, but like to be the kind of a person who takes their own time and energy to leave shitty comments on the internet on whatever the web page is or YouTube video, to leave negative shit talking comments. It's just it's crazy to me. It's crazy.
It's equally as sad when they don't even care. Their purpose is simply to just troll, right?
Correct.
Like
Yeah,
they have
there's
no
Like
they have no like skin in the game. Like if this guy was like a diehard MMA fan from like 2000 and he's like, you guys don't know shit, I would almost feel less inclined to take that to heart. But like some chooch who's probably started watching during the pandemic to tell me what I'm seeing and what I'm not seeing, meh.
I mean, there are genuinely people like in this day and age who are like, I can't wait to like finish my dinner tonight so I can settle in for an hour of trolling random accounts, and like that's their fucking enjoyment for the night.
That's like their pastime. That's what they do as a hobby. They do it for fun.
It could be about anything. It could be about anything. The dude probably has never seen MMA. I mean, he probably has, but my point is like, yeah, he's just there to light shit on fire. It's just weird.
Yeah. Okay. Let's enough about that. Let's move on to UFC 300. I said it already. It went down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. This historic event. And this week, gentlemen, the name on the marquee, man, oh man, has got to be Alex Pereira, who defeated Jamahal Hill, defending his UFC light heavyweight title. It was sort of a unification bout because Jamahal Hill had taken the belt from Glover Teixeira and never lost the belt. He never got to defend it, but he never lost it because he went down with an injury and had to vacate. So this was a sort of a unification bout, it felt like. But Pereira defeated Jamahal Hill by knockout, 3-14 of the very first round. Mark, give us your thoughts on how this fight played out across the 3+ minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a ton of fighting, but before we get to that, the vibes going into this thing were awesome. Like the interactions at the press conference, Jamahal walking around with the little, I don't know what you call that, but the
Stonehenge.
Yeah, there you go. The Stonehead symbol on the chain. And clearly he was getting under Pereira's skin a little bit. And then even the way that Jamahal came out to the cage, and then when Pereira's music hit, he walked over to the gate of the cage, like waving him in, and they were telling him he had to back up, and he was like, "Don't worry, I'll back up." But like, I'm waving him in here right now. And then I don't know if you guys saw this because it wasn't on the live broadcast, but I saw a clip of it later. That when Pereira shot his arrow, like he always does in his walkout, Hill caught it and snapped it over his knee. Like, I loved the whole, the whole vibes going into it, and just how Hill was so confident that he could strike with him. And he, he made a lot of people believe that he could. I was fairly 50-50 on the fight. I picked Pereira, but I was like, fuck, man, Hill could catch him for sure. And I still think he could catch him if they ran it back potentially. But my point is, like, he really had people believing he could go out there and knock out Alex Pereira. And 3 minutes in, he is out cold. Like, it's the dude is not normal. He measured Hill bit by bit the whole fight. You could see he kept putting his left hand on Hill's fist and kind of measuring it and tapping it when they would meet. And then in that final exchange, I mean, first of all, the wave off of Herb Dean after the nut shot was awesome.
Oh, historic.
Legendary.
And that's a little element in itself, because I know Hill like gave him the high five to be like, let's go again. I'm not sure that Hill like 100% mentally clicked himself back in, because he literally got rocked by the very next shot. So you'll always wonder that. But as I was saying about Pereira, then he kept tapping his hand. And then when he finished him, he grabs Hill's right hand and he moves it out of the way himself with his left. And now Hill is open and is so fast and needs so little windup with his left. He can knock you out with such short shots that from moving Hill's hand and letting go, he just throws this almost baby short left. And Hill's fucking out cold. Like the dude's power is just, it's abnormal. And we've said it plenty of times on here. We'll continue to say it. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, he apparently shattered Francis Ngannou's record on that punch machine thing, which like that makes sense from the things that we're seeing. And he put him out. It's just, the dude is on one of the craziest, like the resume that he already has in only however many fights, like knocked out Izzy, knocked out Strickland.
He has 3 fights.
Beat Yan, beat Glover, knocked out Jiri. I mean, not Glover, sorry. Yuri's who I meant to say. Knocked out Hill. Like it's already a Hall of Fame resume, and the dude has barely even been here. It's mind boggling.
I was just gonna say, one of the things I meant to bring up. I'll just bring it up now because piggybacking off of what you're talking about, I feel like we're kind of knocking on the door for Alex Pereira of having the conversation about where he's going to land among the all-time greats, because the guy is starting to really prove himself to be something special. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Especially if we're gonna have this little wade into the heavyweight waters. Who knows what happens there? But if he could collect some more knockouts against heavyweights, I mean, he's going to be in very high regard.
Yeah. All right, Omar, your turn. What are your thoughts on how this fight played out with Pereira doing Pereira things yet again?
Yeah, I mean, Mark kind of touched on it with the parry. I mean, he just kind of pawed the entire time, kind of measured his distance, and then just parried Jamahal Hill's lead hand away and just cracked him with that left hand, with that left hook. And it really is kind of amazing how much power that kid generates without really loading up or anything, right? Like, you see a lot of guys when they try to finish people and they try to throw shots with power and things like that. There's a lot of body mechanics that go into it, a lot of looping a lot of times and things like that. And Alex Pereira is a guy who minimizes the amount of energy he really needs to use. And he only seems to use what he needs to. And it doesn't seem like it's a whole hell of a lot that he needs to use. It's really impressive to watch him strike because he's almost never out of position as a result of it. He's never overreaching. He's very, very dangerous on the feet. I don't know if you guys saw that as part of that hook that he ended up stepping on Jamahal Hill's foot.
Yeah.
And sort of like trapping him in place almost.
Yeah. You think that was intentional?
Probably. I'd do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it was like a dick move. I'm just saying I wondered if it was a coincidence or if he really meant to step on his foot.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it, especially if I was trying to keep a certain amount of distance, if I was trying to keep him there, right, from not moving or anything like that. At the very minimum, even if he were to get his foot out of there, it would cause like a momentary disruption of some sort. So, I mean, I thought it was a great strategy. And it's little things like that. Even the parry with the left hand. I mean, it's such a simple, small thing to do, but it's not like you see that a ton in MMA on a regular basis, obviously, right? So it's like the way that Alex Pereira is able to utilize those little tricks, knowing when to do it, knowing how to set things up properly. I mean, you can see how quickly he can take advantage of situations like that, man. He's really nasty. And DC said something in one of his clips recently where he was like, it's amazing how good Alex Pereira is. It's amazing how successful he's been. And this dude doesn't know how to wrestle. And I don't think any of that is inaccurate at all.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of going to get to this in my matchup. So maybe I'll save this point for a second.
All right.
Just to talk about things that I absolutely loved about the lead up to this fight and the fight itself. Yes, I totally agree with you, Mark. And Hill's unwillingness to show an ounce of hesitation or intimidation, I love to see it. Facing a guy who is probably the most intimidating athlete in the sport right now, and probably definitely one of the greats in terms of like stare down intimidators and super intense and scary guys in Pereira. And Hill ate it up. He was like, let's go. I'm not going to be super respectful. It's not that I'm going to be disdainful of you, but he was like, I'm not going to back down for 1 second. And I loved seeing that, of just going toe to toe with the boogeyman. Now, the other thing that I loved about this fight, and that it didn't go Hill's way, obviously, is that Pereira does Pereira things, and to the point of that he hasn't really had to showcase much defensive wrestling thus far in his short MMA run, to the extent of that he has had somewhat favorable matchmaking. That's part of the sport, to be honest. But, it is amazing that a guy like Hill, who is also mainly a striker, though, but Pereira just always ends up doing the Pereira thing, which is, and Mark, you talked about this too, of like, he really just like, he has the calf kick and he has the left hook. And it's just like, he's gonna get you with it. He's just gonna get you with it. It's just a matter of time. And the earlier in the fight, the more dangerous he is. I mean, that left hook, man, he has a tremendous and maybe underrated hand speed with his left hook, especially.
Yeah.
It lands like lightning. It's like a lightning strike, man, and it just shuts you off. So
his leg kick is also a real problem too, because his leg kick there's not much to it, right? Like when you watch guys in Muay Thai throwing leg kicks and shit, there's a lot more body mechanics to it, a lot more like throwing your hip and your whole body into the kicks and stuff. Pereira apparently, for whatever reason, doesn't need to do that. And he simply just chucks his leg out there, hits the dude across the shin or on the back of the calf. And like, that's pretty much all you need, man. And his leg strikes visibly may not look like they're doing a whole hell of a lot, but every time they land on somebody's leg, you can see their reaction to it. And nobody, and I mean not one person from 185 to 205, probably not even in heavyweight, seem to enjoy those leg kicks, man. It's a real debilitator.
I think the biggest thing with both of them is just how much trouble guys have seeing them because of what you just said. There is no tell on the leg kick. There is no wind up on the leg kick. And I think dudes watch him and they're like, when I'm in there, I'll be able to make these reads and I won't get caught the same way. And they're wrong. And it's the same thing with the left hook. It's like, it's hard to land a picture perfect knockout, big left hook. It's not that hard to land little short left hooks in exchanges. Those kind of happen a lot. But for most people, it's like, oh, caught him with a left, fight continues. For Alex Pereira, it's like, well, caught him with a left. That's the end of the fight, no matter how small or big the left was. So it's like he just has these gifts that allow him to land shots that guys anticipate, like, I'll watch out for that. But it's such an easy little shot in a lot of these times that you can't really watch out for that.
Right. And it's got to be some of that God-given power too, man, to a certain extent, right? I mean, he's definitely got technique. I know a lot of people apparently over this last week were talking about how they're not impressed with his technique necessarily, and he doesn't have a lot of technique and this, that, which I don't subscribe to in the least. But I think his foundation, his fundamentals, I think are so solid that he's able to do all of these little dumb things that people wouldn't tend to do, or maybe not even learn how to do right up front. You know what I mean? But he knows rhythm. He knows the timing. He knows where his body is in space. When he's throwing these leg kicks, he knows that he's not going to get countered in that moment. A lot of times when guys like turn their whole hip to throw leg kicks, they're doing it to get the hell out of the way of some sort of counter. But he does it with such understanding of where he is in the distance that it's impressive, man. It's really impressive. And it's, as much as people love him and things like that, a lot of guys still seem to underrate his game. And I don't know how many heads this man needs to take before they realize that he's a problem. The wrestling is obviously going to be a source of issue when it comes to him whenever we hit that point. But like, to dismiss what this man can do just seems really asinine at this point.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's talk about where he can go from here. He talked in his translated Octagon interview right after the fight in the cage there, what could be next. And he said, I want to fight at heavyweight. So what do you guys make of that, Mark?
So if they ever did let him hop on UFC 301 and it was against some heavyweight who happens to be ready just for like one fight, sure. I doubt they're letting him hop on UFC 301. And I don't want him to truly move to heavyweight yet. There's too much happening at heavyweight. There's Bones and Stipe. Aspinall could easily fight Curtis Blades. Gane is there. I mean, there's plenty happening. And he still has to fight Magomed Ankalaev, in my mind. I don't think there's any reason to entertain a move until he beats Magomed Ankalaev. Because, like, yes, he beat Yan and Jiri and Hill. But there's one other dude who is very clearly deserving of a title shot in this division. So I think he needs to fight that fight. And then this is when I'll circle back to the wrestling point. As much as I was saying a few minutes ago that he has this crazy resume already, if we really walk through it, it's Izzy, who tried to wrestle a little bit, but he's not any dominant
wrestler, not a
great wrestler by any means. It's Yan, who did try to wrestle, but he gassed at altitude within 5 minutes and was winning until he gassed. He was out wrestling Pereira. Not like Pereira was doing badly, but he was losing. Jiri, who didn't try to wrestle him, and Hill, who didn't try to wrestle him, and Strickland, who didn't try to. I mean, granted, that fight fucking barely lasted, but he probably wasn't going to try to wrestle him anyway. So he has, as much as these are unbelievable names, he's kind of got all these guys, other than the Yan altitude situation, and Jan's not even a dominant wrestler, if we're really being honest, who were not a wrestler. So I don't think we should be treating him like he is this unbeatable guy, when really we haven't seen his wrestling tested at all. And as much as Magomed Ankalaev can be infuriating and sometimes not use his wrestling, you would have to think that if he got a title shot against Alex Pereira, his mindset would be, I'm going to take this dude down and maul him. And then we really find out.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see. And he did say Ankalaev's name, to his credit. In the cage, he said heavyweight. In the post-fight, he was like, a lot of people keep telling me Magomed Ankalaev, they tell me I'm going to get out-wrestled and that's my toughest. And I agree. That I think that is his toughest test at light heavyweight. And he was like, and I want to show that it's not. So props to Pereira for being open to taking it.
Man, oh man. Omar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Magomed Ankalaev one is the one that I feel like makes the most logical sense. Light heavyweight has been such a goddamn disaster in terms of that top echelon movement for at least 2 or 3 years at this point. Basically ever since Glover lost the belt to Jamahal Hill, and Jamahal Hill went on that injury hiatus. And even before then, it was 6 months before he got injured, and then we got noticed that he wasn't going to fight, and then Yuri came into the picture, and then Yuri won, and then Yuri got injured. So then we had to sacrifice the belt again, and it's been a mess. And I think we need a little consistency. We need a little stability in the light heavyweight division, and I think a title defense, maybe one from some fucking body who wins the title in that division, is warranted. So let's just have the one. And then if you want to go up and get crazy with a guy that has like 30 pounds on you, do what makes you happy. You know what I'm saying? Get that money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about the matchup for him at heavyweight. Yeah, if he faces a guy who has 30 pounds on him and it has a wrestling base, then he could be in for a long night.
I don't look. I know we just talked about his skill and how good he is and all that. Weight classes, like, especially when you're talking about a discrepancy. Tom Aspinall's a big dude, and he's not slow, and he knows how to strike. I am terrified for every top tier challenge in the heavyweight division for Alex Pereira, because they're all really bad matchups. Maybe Stipe would probably be like, and even
a lot
then,
of dudes can wrestle. Aspinall can wrestle. Blades can wrestle. Stipe can wrestle. Bones can wrestle. Did I say Blades? Blades can wrestle. I mean, yeah. Almeida, even. Yeah. I mean, he's not quite there, but you know what I mean.
I mean, in terms of what's necessary, I mean, I could see Almeida taking Pereira down to the ground and keeping his ass down there. At minimum.
Yeah. I just mean not quite there at the top of heavyweight at the moment after the loss, but even the timing works out. Like, within a few months later this year, you could have booked all three of Pereira Ankalaev, Bones Stipe, and Aspinall Blades. Mm-hmm. So say like Bones and Aspinall win and Pereira wins. You could then say, all right, we're going to book Bones and Aspinall to unify this heavyweight title, and we're going to book Pereira against Cyril Gane. And the winner is going to fight the winner. Like, that's a hell of a timeline.
What does that timeline even look like? Because at this point, it doesn't seem like Jones and Stipe are going to fight before July at this point, minimum. So, like...
That's what I said. I said late summer.
Oh, late summer.
Because Aspinall's is 304, which is... When is that? Why can't I do things?
It's got to be July. It's got to be July. Yeah.
Yeah, 304 is July. Yeah, that's the UK card, right? I think so. I think it's 304.
We all know now what 303 is. Yeah, 304 is the return to Manchester. Yep.
Yeah. Which sucks for Leon because they're probably going to make him wait for that card too, and the dude hasn't fought in age. But yeah, I guarantee you that card is Leon Bilal. Or Leon, maybe it's not Bilal. You would hope it is. And Aspinall versus somebody, probably Blades.
Can you imagine if it's still not Bilal? Like, I would be, if I was Bilal, man, I'd like sue somebody at this point. It's crazy, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should just fucking leave and go to the PFL and win $1 million bucks.
Yeah, you won't get the career accolades, but you'll at least get the career earnings you probably deserved at that point.
Yeah. Okay, let's resume the talk here about what could be next Now for Mr. Jamahal Hill.
I think that's Jiri. I think that's a very easy one. They've talked their shit before. They were supposed to fight once before. They're both
all right.
Sitting there right now in the same spot. Basically, book it.
What do you think, Omar?
Yeah, I actually totally, as we were talking about the fact that they were supposed to fight before, I didn't even realize that they're kind of in a perfect spot to fight now. Especially if you have Ankalaev fighting for the championship, they're the next two that really need to go at it. And Jiri, I think Jiri has less of a reason to take that fight because he's at the top already, and I think he kind of has the idea that he doesn't need to, but I think he'd be really dumb not to take that fight and really cement the fact that he should be next on the list to fight for a championship.
Yeah, I mean, he did lose to Pereira. You would think you need more than one win to get another shot.
Yeah, that's valid.
Okay. Well, let's move on from this main event. Man, Pereira is just so dangerous. Such a special striker. Such a tough recipe of skills for these fighters to figure out, man. His size, his athleticism, his power. Forget it.
How tall is Pereira? Like 6'6"?
That dude's got to be like 6'3", man.
I was going to say
Tapology,
6'4".
he's listed at 6'4".
Okay. So it's funny because this just crossed my mind right now, but I was talking to a guy yesterday that I know who actually lives in Bethel, Connecticut, which is where Pereira lives and where Glover's gym is.
Oh.
And
I thought it was Danbury.
Well, they're like, it's like
right next to each other.
Spill into each other, basically. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I think the actual address of Glover's gym is Bethel, but then I think Pereira's house might be in Danbury and Glover's too, something along those lines. But this dude is like same size as me. He might be like, yeah, we're probably the same height. So he's like 6'2". And he was telling me that he sees Pereira around and he's like, bro, I feel like he's a giant. Like I feel like a midget when I'm near him.
Wow.
Like where our height is not supposed to be so different. And I feel like he is a giant human when I see him. I was like, yeah, I believe that checks out.
Yeah, man. Damn, he's a big dude. I mean, we've all seen that picture of him in training with Dominic Reyes at the time when Pereira was still at middleweight. And it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He looks like
remember
he's
that.
a lot bigger than Reyes.
Yeah. Yep.
Bigger and taller. Just straight up larger than Reyes.
Yeah. Okay, let's go now to the co-main event of this awesome pay-per-view. In the women's strawweight division, Weili Zhang defended her women's strawweight championship by defeating Xiaonan Yan by every way possible across this fight. Yeah. Submission, I think there might have been a possible opportunity for a TKO in there, and also a 5-round decision. Omar, started off here, man. Started off. Give us your impressions of how this fight played out. The valiant effort that was put forward by Yan Xiaonan, and ultimately the talent disparity that was in favor of Zhang.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, overall, Yan Xiaonan got pretty fucked up in that fight. But the only reason you come away with that is because of how tough Yan Xiaonan is and how she didn't quit at all in that fight. She never stopped trying to win that fight. There were moments in there after she's getting her ass totally whooped that she was putting certain combinations on Weili Zhang and like backing her up. I mean, at no point did she have any quit in that fight. It was just a rough fight for her, man. I mean, at every turn, at most turns, I should say, Weili Zhang had the upper hand. Some of the ground, some of those takedowns, first of all, were timed so gorgeously from Weili. And we've really seen her wrestling get so much better over the years, especially after working with Cejudo. She's gotten so much better in that department. And something that, especially from somebody who didn't come from that background, there's a lot of GSP elements to it. And not to say she wrestles like GSP or anything like that, but just how GSP was so good at wrestling and did not come from that world in the least, but really trained himself to be apt at that skill. And I feel like Weili Zhang is heading in that direction with the way she's really shown her aptness now to the ground game and getting the fight to the ground when she needs to. but her striking, man, is still a real problem, and it's still on point. She's really, really, really fast, very bouncy. I always love seeing her strike and put combinations together. She's not one to really just string one or two together. She's usually throwing at least 2 to 3 to 4 strikes in a combination. And she was laying it out on Yan. Obviously, the biggest thing about this fight was the choke that she had towards the end of the first round. Right? First round? Second round? First round. First round.
End of the
she
first
had at
round,
the end of the first round, had it in there tight. You could see Yan trying to just survive the round at that point because she couldn't find her hand. She couldn't do any more hand fighting. And she was trying, man. I think for a while she was successful trying to rip the hands off, but eventually it got to a point where she couldn't do it anymore. And the round comes to an end and Yan is out. She is not conscious. And I'm pretty sure it's not legal for the referee to pick up the fighter. I feel like we've had that situation before, and like people have said something about that before. And I didn't care for the fact that he was trying to pick up Yan, and you could see Yan not even really be able to walk. She was not apparently looked like she was not aware of where she was even when she got up, and she got moved back to her stool. Do you guys know if they use smelling salts on her? Because I didn't see anything, but I read something about smelling salts.
So there was a dude, like a cut guy, I guess, type of guy, who said, "Do you want me to wake her up?" And the corner was like, yeah, like they were confused. And I'm confused. Something in her nose quickly, and she woke up. So then the broadcast team was like, "What just happened? Like, was that smelling salts?" And they were all like, "I don't think you can do that."
Yeah,
and
I don't think you can do that either.
A couple minutes later, they got a slow-mo replay of it, and the dude just stuck his fingers up her nose. That's all it was. And it like woke her up because I guess he shoved them up her nose.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super weird.
I'm just so...
That's very odd.
Clear this up for me. I'm a little confused. Is this a situation where she was saved by the bell?
Yes.
Yeah, because technically she didn't tap, right? And the referee didn't
make
call
any
the
sense.
fight.
Sorry.
It's the reality is it's up to the referee's discretion. At the end of the day, Herzog could have been like, "Oh, she's out," and the fight's done, and we would have called it submission at 5 minutes of the first round.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what makes so much sense to me.
And to me, that's the ruling. And like, I guess I don't want to pretend, sometimes we're on here, we're talking about rules and I know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about rule-wise.
Right.
This one, I guess I'm not 100% clear, but I could swear that if you are ever out cold, the fucking fight is over. Even if both fighters are standing, let's say, and punching each other as the round ends, and they both fucking high five at the horn and walk to their corners, and then someone passes out on their stool, the fight is over.
Right.
So how is this girl being passed out from a choke, clearly passed out in front of Herzog while he's looking at her? Not the fight is over. I don't get.
Him helping her up is where I had the problem. It's one thing if Xiaonan, I guess, got up of her own accord and was like able to walk back to the corner on her own, I guess, or something. But like, there was a lot of support from a lot of people to get her back to that corner, and that I didn't care for.
I mean, she was clearly out, and it got her fucked up in round 2 because she was not ready to fight in round 2, and she got the shit beat out of her in round 2. Round 2 was a 10-8.
Listen, the fact that she came back at any point at any of those other rounds is insane, and she looked 100% together by round 3. I mean, she was in it. She won round 3.
She looked fantastic in round 3, and she's dangerous, man. She cracked Weili a few times on the feet, but by round 3, she had clicked back. Weili was tired because of everything she did in round 2, where she thought she was going to get the stoppage again in round 2 from strikes, and she fucking let it go, and she didn't get the stoppage, and she was tired. And then in round 3, I was like, oh my God, like, is Weili going to get screwed out of this fucking fight where she should have won in round 1, arguably could have just got a stoppage in round 2, and now she's gassed and she's going to lose all these remaining rounds or maybe even get finished. And I was like, I hated it because I was like, that's some bullshit if she loses her title right now. Thankfully for her, she kind of took that round 3 off and she was all right by round 4 and then pushed. And really that's the only round she dropped. She won 4 and 5. So props to Weili for being that good and being able to, collect herself and bounce back. And obviously a lot of mental gymnastics happening in that fight, probably thinking she won, a few different times. You've heard, I don't know if you guys have heard, but I've heard a few times Tim Kennedy tell the story of the Yoel Romero fight. And he was like, I thought I won, and my whole body dumped. Like I couldn't, the bell rang for the next round and it was over. Like I wasn't there anymore. And he got knocked out within minutes. So like for Weili to have to deal with all that and keep herself on and keep herself dialed in and push through and go the whole 25 minutes, like that was impressive from her. And you touched on everything technique wise, but yeah, I mean, she has become so well-rounded ever since she linked up with Henry Cejudo. Her game has jumped levels. I don't know that she trained with Henry anymore, but I'm saying like that's the career point where it seemed like things really started to change for her and she embraced the wrestling more. And it's changed her. She has an avenue against anybody she wants now. Like old Weili would have had a strike with Xiaonan Yan, and who knows how it would have gone. Current Weili has an avenue against anyone, wherever the advantage is, that's where she'll take the fight. And she did it again.
Yeah, man. Whew. Yeah, I'm so confused. I'm still so confused and slightly frustrated about how that played out. To me, it just makes too much sense that the horn sounds, the choke is released, and the fighter is unconscious. That represents that, in the real world, that fight is over. Like she's been defeated.
Oh, in the real world, she probably dies.
That's what that's what I'm saying.
I would love to hear a comment from Herzog. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
Said anything.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Herzog, but that was definitely on my list of not my favorite calls.
Yeah. At the end of the year, if we're picking best referee, game winner this year, pal.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about what is next for the champ here. Zhang Weili. Mark, you got a name? Did she call anybody out? I don't think she did. Did she?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't believe she did, no. Yeah, to me, I say we go ahead and book Tatiana Suarez. I get it.
Yeah.
That people thought maybe she needed one more win, and then she got hurt, and she kind of has had her fair share of injuries. But like at the same time, she's utterly dominant. We know how good she is. She does get injured. So like when she gets back, I just think it's like, now is the time. Give this girl finally her title shot. Of course, if she becomes champion and then she gets injured a bunch more times, that's going to be a shitty situation. But I just feel like you have to give her a shot. She deserves the shot. And I don't think there's any reason to make her fight like a Lemos or whoever it may have been if she was back sooner. I think now the way this timing has just worked out, you go ahead and make the fight.
Yeah.
Let's go. Omar, your thoughts on a potential matchup?
It's got to be Tatiana Suarez. I mean, to me, that's also the most interesting fight, especially now as well-rounded as Zhang is. Can she stop the wrestling? Can she do anything with her wrestling? Is the striking of Weili going to matter against, the pedigree that Tatiana Suarez brings to the table? Because Suarez has hands for sure, but I don't think I would put her in the same striking overall category as I would a Weili. So it's just interesting to see how their skills are going to match up, how they both execute. I think it's a great matchup. Really, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about Xiaonan Yan. Wait, am I saying that right? Xiaonan Yan. God damn it. Omar, what do you think about what could be next for her? There were moments in this fight where she didn't look great. There were moments in this fight where she looked very impressive. What do you think about what could be next for her?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for her to stay at the top, towards the top of the division. I think she still has done a lot of work to get to where she's at right now. I know obviously she's dropped her championship, but I just think somebody maybe against an Amanda Lemos. I'm not sure what Amanda Lemos is doing right now, but that would be the fight to me that makes the most sense.
Mark, your thoughts?
Agreed, totally. I think she has become the Lemos opponent now. They have similar resumes. They both obviously got turned back by Weili. They're both exciting as shit on the feet. I think you put those two in there and you get a good fight.
Nice. Let's Let's move on now to the BMF title bout that went down at 155 pounds between Justin, the highlight Gaethje, and Max Blessed Holloway. And Max Holloway comes away with a devastating victory over Justin Gaethje across 5 rounds, across which Holloway came away looking very impressive, getting the better of Gaethje across the entire 25-minute fight, knocks Justin Gaethje out in the final second of the fight, beginning a sequence with his trademark Max Holloway point at the ground when the 10-second clapper thing claps. He's like, 10 seconds left. Let's throw down in the center, just like a fucking street fight. And oh my God, with about 1 second left on the clock, he catches Justin Gaethje with an incredible short, I believe it was a short right hand, right on the button, man. Gaethje was already hurt, and it really put his lights out. It was a little scary for me, to me.
Yeah.
Gaethje, he collapsed in a not great way, man. Just in a heap, and he was down for more than a few seconds, and I was very obviously very impressed, but I was also like, shit, I hope he's okay. And I was very, very glad to see him, up and okay and talking to Max. And so like still a great sport. And I think Gaethje would not have wanted to go out any other way. So yeah, man, Mark, what are your thoughts on how this BMF fight played out?
I honestly sort of feel like I'm not worthy to talk about this performance from Max Holloway. Like I feel like no matter what I say, it's not enough for what we just saw from Max. Like it was incredible. It was everything that we watched this sport for. It was a synopsis of his entire career in one fight. It was a legend making moment. It was the maybe main video we're going to see when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, it was everything. And it was in a fight where he is coming up in weight. When it got made, he was an over 2-1 underdog. It did shrink by fight time because I think people saw that price tag and they were like, that's a bit much. But a lot of people were like, he can't fucking beat Justin Gaethje. Like he came up, he fought Poirier, he tried, didn't go his way. He lost all those fights to Volk. He's not the same guy anymore. Look at Justin Gaethje. He's the most dangerous guy in the UFC. He just knocked out Dustin Poirier. Like Max can't hang with Justin. Max can't knock anybody out. Justin knocks everybody out. The difference in the power, yada, yada, yada. He can't hang with him. And I said this last week, that was my initial instinct when this fight got made, was kind of that. And until I really started breaking it down is when I switched my pick to Max, which I feel pretty good about seeing what happened. But even then I thought it would be like, maybe Max could win 4 and 5. And if he could take one of the first 3 rounds, he gets it. It wasn't that. It was a fucking masterclass. This man took Justin Gaethje to school. Justin Gaethje looked terrible. And I get it that he had his nose broken in the first round, which I'm sure played a role in it. But that was at the very end of the first round. And in the first round, Max still looked way better. Like he was ahead all night. He was way faster, which I did expect. You figured the hands and the feet would be a bit faster. But Justin couldn't really find him. He was having a hard time. Obviously, he was ripping the fuck out of his legs, which is just the way Max Holloway is able to take leg kicks as if he's not taking leg kicks makes no sense. Like he just ignores them and somehow he's fine. It's like he has this fucking superpower of not feeling his legs, but his legs were getting destroyed. But aside from that, Justin couldn't find him that much with the hands. Of course, he had his little moments here and there. And what was it, round 4? Then Justin finally had a good round. But early in that fight, he had a really hard time tracking Max down. Max was so much quicker with the combos. And not only that, but his power is increased. And I said this last week. I feel like it has been quietly increasing. And I forget what fight before the zombie fight, and then even more in the zombie fight, I was like, man, this dude is landing harder than he normally lands. And I believe it because I think we saw the same thing in this fight. I don't know that he has been consciously working on it or if it's just a product of his development and Maybe even here adding the weight had something to do with it. But Max is landing harder than he used to land. Like these shots, even pre-broken nose, Gaethje was feeling these shots. He was getting moved off balance. Like that's not typically Max Holloway shots don't get those kind of results, especially on a Justin Gaethje. And then after the nose was broken, I mean, Gaethje was feeling everything. He was turning away from jabs, which I get. I mean, the dude's nose was fucked. I'm sure every shot was killing him. But it was a masterful performance from Max. And then you get to the end, and it's like, again, he is in there across from Justin Gaethje. The last fucking thing you want to do with Justin Gaethje is go shot for shot. And it's like you hear that clapper, and almost in my head, I was like, imagine Max tells him to come to the middle now. Like, no way that's going to happen. And he does it, and he goes shot for shot with Justin Gaethje, and he knocks him the fuck out with 1 second left. Like, you can't write it. You can't script it. This is why this sport is fucking my favorite sport in the world, because you get moments like this. And it's just, I mean, again, this is the part where it's like, what can I don't even know. I don't have words to properly describe how great this moment was. And I'm glad that it has gone as like, not viral, but as mainstream as it has. Like, I feel like dudes who I've never heard talk about MMA in my life are like, did you see that UFC fight this weekend where the dude pointed and like 1 second? I love it. I hope Max becomes twice as big of a star as he was going into this fight.
Yeah. Kind of feels that way. Maybe a bit more mainstream. Okay.
See, Mark's like, I'm just down for anybody to say anything about that fight. And I'm like, that guy? How dare you, sir? That's Max motherfucking Holloway. You better put some respect on his name. Google that shit before you say something out loud, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, Omar, keep going. Give us your thoughts on this fight.
The fight's legendary, man. I watched this fight at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I have talked about this notoriously on this podcast about how, as much as I go to Wild Wings, I quite hate the crowd at Wild Wings. Not the hugest fan. I'm just not. And of course, I was sitting next to what we're seeing, and UFC 300 is a very big deal. Was a very big deal, right? Normally, my Wild Wings is not super packed for UFC fights. This one, I couldn't sit anywhere near the bar where I normally sit. I have I have waitresses that like know I'm gonna be there for the fight and stuff like that. Couldn't go anywhere near them. So I ended up getting sat at a regular table, sitting next to what were seemingly like 19, 20-year-olds who just wanted to make my life inherently difficult for the entire night by just screaming and making noise. But that was the one fight that brought everybody in that shit ass place together. And everybody was screaming. Everybody was having a great time. And when he pointed his finger at the floor, I was like, there's no way Justin is going in there for this right now. Justin obliges, and we throw down and get crazy. And you know, the one thing that I will say from a casual perspective that was getting me annoyed, because even though I didn't think Justin was going to do it, it was his best shot at winning that fight. But everybody was saying shit like, you know, Justin's dumb for having done that, and you don't do that with Max Holloway. I was like, you do it when you're down 4-0,
100%.
and you need to win the fight. I mean, if you don't want to get knocked out, I get it. Listen, who am I to tell you not to go get knocked out? I get it. You don't want to get knocked out. But if you don't care and you're really still trying to win that fight in the last 10 seconds, you take the Hail Mary. You take the coin flip. And Max Holloway is the one who's out of his goddamn mind, because not only was he winning that fight handedly, he did not need to put that Hail Mary into existence for him to lose that fight after all of that hard work for the last 10 seconds for some crazy nonsense to go down. But you know what? He did. And we're all better off for it. And we should all be thanking him for it. And in reality, this is one of those fights in history that, like, back in the 70s, when that fucking generation used to talk about the Muhammad Ali's and the this and the that, and we're glad we were able to see him in person. This is our era of this, right? The McGregor knocking out Jose Aldo in 16 seconds. The John Jones beating the Christ out of Shogun Rua. All of the TJ destroying Renan Barao, not once, but twice in spectacular fashion. Like, these are the fights that for me are going to be the ones that when I have nothing left working in my body, mind included, these are the things that I'm probably still going to remember and regurgitate.
When you have
fights.
dementia and have no more memory, you'll still remember these fights.
Wife, I was married. I don't remember that. Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, boom. Remember that like it was yesterday.
Totally,
like, do you remember that guy who pointed? And someone will be like, that guy? His name is Max Holloway.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, legendary fight.
So Holloway in the cage, he calls out Topuria with the great Max Holloway. Max Holloway is one of the, I think, underrated, like, quotable MMA fighters in the sport.
1,000,000% agree.
Everybody thinks of Conor and Chael. Nobody really thinks about Max. Max is always ready with a great line, man. The guy is full of them.
He's too nice. That's just what it is. Max Holloway is just too nice. Like
he's both.
Well, I mean, Max Holloway is a beast, but when it comes to like his lines and stuff, he's like, I kill you, but it's all love, you know. I kill you, but it's all love.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah,
you know what I mean. But Chael Sonnen will like talk about everybody you've ever talked about, everybody you've ever seen in your life. He'll go crazy on you. Conor will call you a terrorist and all other kinds of crazy ass shit. So it's like the level of heel those other two had is something different. Max is like Wonder Boy level kind of niceness, but like, but the level of violence is
Max
different.
Is also,
Max.
I mean, that's why you got a BMF fight, because he's also fucking badass.
This is the first and only fight, as far as I'm concerned, with that BMF belt that it really embodied what we're doing here with that belt. That felt like a BMF belt. Whatever they intended that belt to be, that was the first time I really felt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. So he says about Topuria, there's a matador, but he's running from the bull or something like that. Some fucking great line.
Yep.
So what do you guys think is next for Max? What do you think is next for the BMF belt? Omar, you go first.
Dog, honestly, man, it's rare that we find somebody in the UFC space that has options. I mean, Max could stay at 155 if he wanted. Max could go down to 145, and he could have an absolute claim to fight Topuria, especially if Volkanovski's not doing it right now. I mean, Max has got options, man. Max could also fight Conor McGregor. I mean, how does that not make sense at this point in their careers? You know, after the whole Chandler thing, you know, it's not like Max is fighting tomorrow. Depending on what happens with Conor and I was going to say it, McChandler.
Let me ask you guys this: if how does this work? If you guys know more than me, let's say he somehow, for whatever reason, he gets to fight. I mean, hence this is why I'm bringing this up. Let's say he gets the Conor fight. Like, there's this idea that, like, if you fight Conor, it's like more money. But are these guys on a contract?
I think everybody's a little bit different. A guy like Donald Cerrone never had a contract that had any kind of extraness to it. So I don't think he was ever going to get a red panty night. But like some of these guys, depending, like Sean O'Malley, I think even if he wasn't a champion, is probably making a little bit of extra bread on the side for the amount of views that he just brings in for being him. But obviously those details are all confidential.
What do you mean? If you're in the main event across from Conor, you're getting
pay-per-view points. If they say,
is that automatic? Because that wasn't always the case.
I thought it is pay-per-view points.
What's his name? Donald Cerrone didn't get shit. According to Donald
main event
Cerrone.
Pay-per-view? I don't think he did.
Was that Conor fight not a pay-per-view?
But it wasn't a main event. And it wasn't a title fight.
It absolutely was a main event. They're not going to put Conor on him.
That was a main event?
I don't think Conor's co-mained anything like in forever.
That's true. That's a good, yeah.
It was his first fight back from all the nonsense.
Oh, it was the main event.
Yeah.
So he
UFC 246. Yeah.
He didn't get points for that?
No, not according to him. And they asked him too.
They asked
he
him
said,
what?
"Nah, bro, I got paid exactly the same as I always get paid for that fight."
I don't understand that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you would imagine
it's
a red panty night kind of thing.
But you also would imagine, because you just would imagine that Dana would like throw him some more love.
But they might. but it's not contractually obligated. I would imagine Chandler's contract probably has some sort of something in there where he gets a little bite of something. Probably not as much as if he was a champion, but I imagine he gets a bite of something.
He must know shit he's getting. The way that he was 110% willing to sit on the sidelines and wait as long as it took to get this fight, he must know financial implications that are life-changing that are involved.
I would hope so. I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Mark?
But yeah, I do think the fallback option, if he's not going to fight Topuria, that makes the most sense is if Conor McGregor beats Chandler to do Conor and Max 2 for the BMF. I think that'd be fucking enormous.
I didn't even think about the BMF.
Yeah, I think that'd be huge, and I think Conor be into it. Because he's tweeted before about how he wants to have the BMF at some point in his career, Conor. But with that being said, I think it's the Topuria fight, man. I mean, I don't know how soon Volk is looking to come back. And if it is soon and that is what they're going to make, then obviously fair enough. And that's when I would shift to saying maybe the Conor thing is what happens. But like if Volk is sitting for a little bit and he's not the opponent for Topuria in Spain, there's zero argument anymore. Like I know Topuria was trying to push back originally and be like, I'm not interested in fighting Max. Like that's fucking out the window. Nobody wants to hear that shit now. No one is going to let you get away with that shit. The whole world wants you to fight Max. Dana will make him fight Max. Like that shit is settled. Unless it is Volk. If Volk is ready to go, it will be Topuria and Max.
I don't understand that attitude from Topuria, right? Like in my head, if I'm trying to build my resume, if I'm trying to build my legacy, if I'm trying to build my name, which Topuria has done great work. He's done something that obviously nobody in the UFC, I guess, short of Makhachev has done in finishing Alex Volkanovski, right? No one can take that away from him, but like he's still super young in this sport and he hasn't made the significant impact, I think, to last an entire legacy, right? He did one amazing thing that no one can take away from him, but like you still got shit to do. And to dismiss Max Holloway like somehow that's not going to do shit for you seems weird to me. Just very odd. That seems like an amazing fight. I think anybody who's a real fighter would want that fight for themselves, let alone the actual like accolades it will give you on paper and you know, from the outside world looking in and stuff like that. But like just for yourself, I feel like you would want to fight a dude who's basically lost to only the greatest in this sport. It just seems weird.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know what prompted all that, him saying he wasn't going to fight any of those dudes. He did have a good quote, though, to Max. I don't know if you guys heard it. No. He said, you couldn't do in 90 minutes what I did in 9. It meaning finish Volk. Yeah. I don't know where he learned math, because Holloway and Volk only fought for 75 minutes. So I don't know what 90 came from.
I didn't get the 90 minutes. I thought I was missing something. I was like, I don't think it was.
I got what he said. I got what he meant.
I think he just thought 90 and 9 sounded good.
Yeah, it's a little more poetic.
Instead of 75 and 9.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move on down this awesome, historic card.
Wait.
And, yeah.
Can we talk about Justin?
Oh, my bad. My bad. Yeah, Mark, talk about Justin. Where could he go? What did he lose with this fight?
Fucking everything, man.
Yeah.
Everything. The dude was supposed to be fighting for the title. He just knocked out Dustin Poirier, and guess who's fighting for the title? Dustin Poirier. So that is, I mean, definition of losing everything. That the dude you just knocked out got your title shot. That fucking has to be really hard for Justin Gaethje to stomach right now. So that sucks. But he made the choice, and he is living with the results, unfortunately. He definitely had a bad night. I think he might have had a little bit of an off night. Maybe some things he wasn't expecting from Max. I don't know what. He didn't seem quite as dialed in as he has seemed as of late. And I don't know where he's at right now in terms of what he wants to be doing. Because he's made the point couple times in the past few years of like, if he's not going to be the champ, then he's not doing this. And he had that moment where people thought maybe he wasn't going to keep going, and then he did, and he got a couple big wins and looked like he was going to get another title shot. And now he's lost it again. So, like, I don't know where he is at, but I do think that the way this division is kind of lined up right now, and I'm sure we'll get some of this even in the next fight we talk about, but it's Islam and Poirier. I think Arman's going to wait. There's some other things going on. I think Gaethje is still in a really prime position where he could probably get the loser of this title fight and actually get a shot at Islam or conclude a trilogy with Poirier. And I think either of those are huge enough that he would be like, all right, let's do this thing, because if I win, I'm right back again.
I like it. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I personally would rather just wait to see what the lightweight division looks like until quarter 4 of this year, because Gaethje got fucked up in that fight. And I don't think Justin Gaethje should be doing any kind of anything for like months. Like, I think he really needs to take some time off and like heal up and stuff. And I think the lightweight division is very likely to change. The landscape, I should say, of the lightweight division is very potential there for it to change over the course of the next 6 to 8 months. So I don't want to give him a fight right now. I think Boyd needs to rest.
I mean, if he fought the loser of the fight
he has
in
to
June,
rest, man.
I figured it wouldn't be till like October, November.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he.
I guess if that is if Islam wins, you're probably right. We probably see Islam fight like in November, and then he calls it a year. If it's Arman, it might be different. He might be more active than Islam. Who knows?
No, dude, it's
if
Islam
it's Dustin,
versus Poirier.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
If it's Poirier, it might be more active than Islam.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You never know.
But to be clear, I was saying Justin to get the loser, not get the winner.
Oh, so if Dustin wins, then it would be Islam, and if Islam wins, it would be Dustin. Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, he's in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot.
Yeah, certainly.
But you never know, man, with MMA. Like a little bit ago, Dustin Poirier was in a tough spot, and he's fighting for the title. So like, you never fucking know how this stuff shakes out.
That's true.
Yeah. People pull out of fights all the time, last minute decisions here and there. You know, if people are ready, man, people can get a lot of big opportunities in the UFC, it looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Staying in the lightweight division, in a 3-round bout, Arman Tsarukyan defeated Charles Oliveira by split decision. I don't have the scorecards in front of me, but it was an interesting fight. It was a kind of a weird fight in certain ways. In some ways, Tsarukyan looked kind of dominant, if I'm being honest. And this is also my take. I'm curious to get you guys might differ from me. But Oliveira nearly finished him, I think, in 2 different spots in this fight. Towards the end of the fight, it looked like he did finish him. Okay, so Omar, start us off. Give us your take on how this fight played out.
So just so you know, the cards were 28-29 from Derek Bell?
Michael Bell.
Derek Cleary. That's what it is. And then Adelaide Bird had 29-28, and then the baby McCarthy had it 29-28. So it was a close fight.
Every judge gave Charles the first. Every judge gave Arman the second. It was the third where things differed.
Yeah. And for me, like, the difficulty with this fight, and it's like weird to me because there's some times where I feel like Oliveira doesn't do this, and then there are some fights where Oliveira does nothing but this. And it's staying on the ground. It's staying in guard. And he has a little bit too much comfort staying in guard when he's getting beat on. And to be fair, Arman's top game looks ridiculously annoying. It doesn't look very easy to get off of him, or get out from under him, I should say. But I think there was too much time trying to get things down from the bottom position. It was very obvious that Arman was very on top of his jiu-jitsu defense in that fight. And I just wish that Charles had looked for something different in a lot of those situations, because it got to a point where he just looked frustrated. He looked frustrated. He didn't really, past a certain point, he didn't really look like he was doing anything different to try to remove himself from such bad positions. And when we got to the third round, it was a back and forth fight, but I do think Arman had won that fight. When the fight ended, I felt like Arman had won that fight and Charles had dropped it. I was a little surprised for it being a split decision. I guess the third round was closer than I thought it was, but I felt like Arman had won that fight.
For what it's worth, the public on MMA decisions was very split on who won, but in terms of the expert scorecards that they collect, it was 8 Oliveira, and it looks like it was I don't even know how many this is, 20 Tsarukyan. So it was definitely in his favor.
Yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts? I mean, you root for Oliveira more than any of us here on the show. Hated it.
Yeah, it sucked. It was tough to stomach. Even more so because I fucking nailed every other bet I made on this card, and I had Charles in every parlay, and I lost thousands of dollars because he didn't win. I lost. I was still up on the night, but I would have been up thousands of dollars, and instead I was up $60. So that was pain. But yeah, I mean, firstly, I wish this was a 5-round fight. I've said this for years. I get it. This card was like an anomaly, but any fight with top 5 guys, I wish it was 5 rounds. There's so many that we get these fights between I don't know what they were going into this. I think Charles was 1. I don't know what Arman was, 1 and 5, maybe they were. But those type of fights where it's we get it, and then we're like, yeah, I guess that guy sort of won, but it's not there's not a true resolution. If I ask you right now, who is better, Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan? At least my answer is I don't really know. So I wish that these higher level fights could be 5. I get it. It's not easy to make them all 5. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. The reason that we all love Charles is because he is the furthest thing you can be from a point fighter. He fights every fight like it's life or death, and he is trying to find any way to, quote unquote, kill you before the minutes are up. But in certain instances, and this being a very clear one, it bites him because of what Omar just said. When he is on the ground with Arman on top of him, he was wholly operating in a sense of I am going to nullify everything he's doing on top of me so that I'm not getting hurt. And I'm going to try to search for an opening to throw up a sub and tap this guy out. But he doesn't operate in a way where he's if this takes the whole round, I'm on the bottom doing nothing for the whole round. And he doesn't, it's just not, it's not the way he approaches fights, and it can hurt him, and it hurt him in this fight. And I did think it was close. I haven't rewatched it. I would like to rewatch it. I thought round 1 was clearly Charles. I'm happy to see every judge gave it to Charles. Round 2 was obviously Tsarukyan. That was the biggest round of the whole fight. That's the round where he was really landing all of his elbows and ground and pound from top. He had a hard time doing that in 1 and 3, but in round 2 he didn't. So that was the clearest round of the fight for Tsarukyan. And round 3 was tough, man. They were on the feet for the first half. It was fairly even. Arman took him down maybe halfway through the round. He did a little bit, but not much. And then that choke happened. And it's we're not entirely sure how close it was to getting Arman out, or if Arman was really just chilling or what. He did say after the fight, he said both chokes were really tight when he got asked. So props to him for surviving both those. I'll tell you what, the round 1, even though it was Arman, I thought it was a wrap. And it's not often with an Arman that I'm thinking. This one, I was like, this dude is fucking done. And he wasn't. So props to him. But yeah, he's look, if you can wrestle, you have an avenue against Charles. And Arman showed it. He did well enough on the feet that Charles couldn't find any big moment there like he's been able to do against other guys like Beneil in the last one. And Arman did enough. He's like I was saying a minute ago, Charles is so good jiu-jitsu wise that in a lot of those moments he was able to nullify Arman, and Arman couldn't do shit. And I heard Arman say that after the fight too. He was like, man, it was wild. Feeling his jiu-jitsu. I feel like I need to work on some things. So clearly he was feeling it in there. But again, it's scorecards, and you're on the bottom, and that's the way shit's gonna go. So I can't hate on it too much. Like I said, I'd love to rewatch round 3. It's definitely a little bit tricky, but gun to my head, I kind of think they did get it right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Tsarukyan just spent too much time in top position on this fight, and that's generally how MMA fights are scored in the must system. Oh, speaking of that, pride scoring, would that have changed things for you, given the fact that he almost finished him twice?
Bro, I feel like it's equally as hard because round 2, Arman was fucking him up. There was a lot of big elbows in round 2. I feel like it's almost the same level of difficulty.
Honestly, pride scoring, it'd probably be closer to a draw.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I feel like it was a draw now. And I don't know if I gave enough props to Arman. I definitely want to do that. The way
he's so good.
He was able to comfortably sit on top of Charles. I mean, he did get caught in 2 submissions, but you know what I mean? For the most part.
Yeah.
And operate that whole fight. Like, not many guys are capable of doing that.
Yeah. It's the guys that are able to survive in his guard and actually play in the guard that really give Charles the most amount of issues.
Absolutely.
What let's start talking about the aftermath of this fight and where these guys could go from here. What do you think? Let me ask you this: how close to the title shot now does this put Tsarukyan? Mark,
they offered it to him. He turned it down.
Number 1.
Oh, that's right. He turned it down like backstage.
Yeah.
Apparently, right when he got backstage, they said,
"Why did he turn it down?"
Because they said it had to be in June. They said Islam's fighting in June. Do you want it? And he said, "It's too soon. I need rest. I need to recover. I don't want to do it." And then apparently that's called Poirier and said, "Okay, it's yours," and they announced it. But
dudes are wild, man. Dudes are wild. I get the not taking stuff on short notice, and obviously just coming off a fight, it's got to be a difficult thing to, depending on how he was feeling. But like, it's a title shot, and you got like a few months, like figure that shit out. I don't know. Title shots don't come around very often for people. We've seen people turn down title shots and never get them again.
So I agree, but at the same time, like, there's no one else. Yeah. Like, Gaethje just lost. Arman just beat Beneil. He's not there now. Charles just lost to Arman. Conor and Chandler have their fight. Like, as soon as this fight happens, which is only, what is it, in a month and a half? What part of June is this fight in? I don't even remember. Between Islam and Poirier, like, Arman is very clearly the guy. So, yeah, I think maybe he feels like, I'm just going to wait, and then it's going to be my title shot either way.
Well, probably. You better hope he doesn't get injured again or something past that point, because we'll probably see Islam back in October, win or lose. Yeah, he's playing. I don't know.
That happens too all the time in MMA. Guys get injured in camp and training, and then fights get pulled for that reason. But I think an angle is there regardless of who wins, whether it's Makhachev or Poirier. If it's Makhachev, then you have that rematch angle, and if it's Poirier, then they haven't fought yet, so at least there's that. Although if Poirier wins,
either way, I really do.
He should. He probably should, man. It's his time.
Yeah,
it's his time. And look, an Islam versus Arman rematch would be must see TV.
Oh hell yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He came up short in this one. One judge thought that he won the fight, so that's saying something. Mark, what is next for your boy?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have to beat somebody, right? He's still right there. Obviously, he's still number 2 in the rankings. Of course, it helps him that he has the win over Poirier. He has the win over Gaethje. He has this super close fight with Arman. Like, against everyone ranked around him, his resume still looks very good. But he's going to have to get a W, and I think Mateusz Gamrot is the right guy to have him try to do it against. I think Gamrot has been working his way up. He's kind of been waiting patiently for his shot at one of these top guys, and I think that fight works now.
Another tough matchup that would be for Oliveira. Gamrot, a guy who definitely knows how to grapple.
That too. I meant to make that point. Let Charles show you he can beat one of these guys who are going to try to take him down.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, Omar? before we move
There's
on?
literally nothing else you can really do in that division. Charles has literally demolished, or at least fought, everybody for the most part in that top 10, give or take. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the argument for Max Holloway if he gets into the 155, if he sticks around at 155. Max Holloway entered the division at number 9. So you could make
did they
that
rank him
argument.
at lightweight? I guess
They
that makes
did.
sense. I didn't even think about that.
But otherwise, the one that just generally makes the most sense with where the rankings are right now is Gamrot.
But see, what the fuck is the point of inserting him in the lightweight rankings if you're going to put him at 9 when Justin Gaethje is 3? Like, what are we accomplishing? That's fucking stupid. Whatever.
That's true. Cool. Let's move on. The opener of the main card for UFC 300, which that in and of itself brought a little bit of controversy and just things for people to talk and discuss and argue about a little bit. Bo Nickal defeats Cody Brundage, by the way, in the middleweight division, by rear naked choke in the second round. The official time 3:38 of round number 2. An interesting fight. Probably Bo Nickal's toughest test yet in certain ways. Omar, give us your thoughts on how it played out.
Yeah, this fight was interesting. The beginning of the fight, I felt like Cody was very present, very much there, very much willing to fight with Bo Nickal and engage with him and get into some clinching with him, play around in the wrestling a little bit with him. There were even moments where he looked like he was physically stronger than Bo Nickal, which was encouraging for Brundage. And I think at the end of the day, no one really gave Cody a chance, which it seems like that might be a thing when you fight Bo Nickal. But you generally want to see dudes fight that stigma, fight the mentality, fight that underdog moniker. You know what I mean? Because underdog just necessarily means people just think that the other guy is probably going to beat you, but you don't want to buy into that yourself when you're fighting the dude, right? And he seemed like he was mentally good going into that fight, was talking his shit and whatever else. When we got in that fight, though, and it really started to get hairy with the takedowns and the control and stuff like that. Especially once we got into that rear naked choke, he was trying to fight the hands. Couldn't really get things done. Got Bo Nickal off a little bit. Was still having trouble on the ground. Got back into a rear naked choke position. And you could tell from the way he was originally fighting hands to the way that he ended up tapping, he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And that's just how I took it. Not going to judge him for it. It is what it is. But it just, when you see somebody like Arman could have literally lost his head against Charles Oliveira. His face was a completely different shade than what it started with when he ended up under the armpit of Charles Oliveira. Xiaonan basically died in the ring against Weili Zhang, not tapping to a choke, right? It's really difficult to watch those performances and not think about the Cody Brundage fight and say to yourself, it just seems like he gave up in that fight. Like he didn't give everything to that fight, to that moment, to that opportunity. And it's a big card. It's not like it's some random ass UFC fight night card. Like, give it everything you got. You lose, but don't just sit there oh, he got me. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. I'm not gonna win this. You know what I mean? And that's how it felt to me. Maybe that's not what it was. Maybe maybe that's not what it is at all. But that's just, I've seen guys in amateurs. I've seen things like that where you can tell that they're just done. They're not going to win the fight. They feel it themselves or whatever. They believe it in themselves that they're not going to win. And so they just sort of take the road given to them, take it out. And I just think Bo Nickal gave him an out and he took it. So that was really disheartening for me, honestly. Win or lose, you never want to see a guy quit like that. You want to see the fight. You want to see somebody really take it from somebody and not just being given to them. So that was a little whack. Hopefully Bo Nickal gets somebody with a little bit of, meat in their bones when it comes to that kind of stuff. But if I saw that from Cody Brundage, I can't imagine other people didn't as well.
I have a slightly different take. I feel like it was a matter of, well, I mean, I don't entirely disagree with you. I think that he was in quicksand with Bo Nickal because Bo Nickal got the fight to where it was most advantageous for him, and it was his however many times hunting for a submission, and he eventually got Brundage. He got him in like the third rear naked in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I thought this was a fight where I didn't think that Bo Nickal looked like the world beater that we've seen him perform as up to this point. I thought Brundage made him look kind of human and kind of didn't look great in certain spots. I think Brundage looked just as strong as Bo Nickal. A few times where Nickal shot in and Brundage just kind of like shucked him off. I was like, oh shit, is Bo Nickal in trouble here? Going up against a pretty well-rounded 10-5 MMA guy, a pro MMA fighter. But once Bo Nickal felt uncomfortable, he went to his comfort zone, which was relying that much more heavily on his wrestling, and got the fight where he needed to get it. And he looked great on top. He looked very heavy on top, and he wore Brundage down. He just, he was going to keep hunting those submissions until he got him, and he did. Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a weird fight. I don't disagree with anything either of you said, really. I think all those points are accurate in different ways. I think that Brundage was aware of the task that was in front of him, and I think he came out with a hard five. I think he was like, I am going to come out in round one, and I'm going to put it on this guy, and maybe I show him some shit that he's not used to seeing, and I find something. And I think once that round passed, and then Nickal started to figure him out a little bit and get the takedowns, that he just kind of lost that because I think he just got deflated, where he was like, I missed my chance. I had him a little bit off his game in round one, and now he's kind of figured me out, and I can't really stop myself from ending up in these positions. And I think that's kind of what Omar's alluding to when the fight changed a bit in terms of the resistance it seemed like Brundage had to offer. But it was a tough ask for Brundage. He's not necessarily a guy who's proven so much in the UFC, and he hung tough for a bit there. He, as you said, he made Nickal look human. We saw for the first time maybe some chinks, some things that he needs to work on, which is not shocking because he is very inexperienced in the MMA space and is already getting thrown on a UFC 300 main card. So it's not like I don't see them as like red flags where it's like, oh my God, now we know Bo Nickal is not what we thought he was. I don't think it's that at all. I just think it's the natural progression, and different levels of fighter are going to show you different things about yourself and different things that you need to work on. And I think Bo got to go into round two now and see how he reacts to some resistance and some things not going his way. And the way he reacted was by getting a submission in the second round instead of the first round. So I think we're all right. And I think he'll only improve from this point on.
Yeah, man. So that being said, let's roll right into this. What do you think should be next for Bo Nickal at middleweight?
The man threw out Roman Kopylov, and I am about it. I think, at a certain point, and I think we're at that point, he needs to stand across from someone that is truly dangerous. And I'm not saying at the top level, and Roman Kopylov is not that. Roman can be taken down. So Bo certainly has that avenue where he can win that fight. But Roman can also put him out with some strikes, and Bo's going to have to navigate some danger on the feet. So I think that's a fun one. I think, like I said, I think it's time to put him across from danger. Did you guys
I like
lose
the
me?
Roman Kopylov. No, we lost you for a little bit, but I do like the Roman Kopylov pick. Roman Kopylov right now is scheduled to fight Cesar Almeida at UFC 302. So could still work.
Wait, Cesar Almeida, the dude that just debuted like a week ago?
I think very possible, because this just came out the other day. So yes, very possible.
I didn't even know that happened. Am
Yeah, the one that fought on the Alan Curtis card.
Yeah, dude, I am thinking of the right guy. That's the dude. Yeah, wow, that's a crazy fight because he is. If anyone doesn't know, he is a kickboxer, Cesar Almeida, who transitioned to MMA, who has a win over Alex Pereira in kickboxing. So him
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think they are 1-2. I want to say Pereira beat him twice. He beat Pereira once. But my point is, he is a high-level kickboxer. So him and Kopylov is some fucking shit.
So maybe the loser of that fight wouldn't be a bad pick.
Could be.
Could be dope. Okay, what about anything you guys want to say real quick about Brundage or no? You want to move on?
I think we could go.
Okay.
Honestly, I also think
we'll
we
leave
got to
that
speed
boy
these
alone
up because it's an hour and a half in and we've done 5 fights.
I was gonna say I don't think we need to do we don't need to do any more picks. I think we could just go over the rest of the fights.
Okay. Even though a number of these are still pretty
I was gonna say this is some
huge.
high level shit, but we could just throw a name if we want to make it quick.
There's still like 8 fights left.
Okay, in what was a barn burner in the light heavyweight division, Jiri Prochazka defeats Aleksander Rakic by TKO in the second round. Mark, your take.
Jiri is a fucking maniac in the best possible ways. So my read on this fight was that the leg kicks were going to be a problem. I also thought maybe the wrestling would be, which Rakic didn't really ever go to, but that I thought Rakic could not succeed dealing with someone who pressures the way Jiri does. And I guess I was right in the end, but Rakic did a lot better than I thought he would for a while. And Jiri had to do a lot more than I thought he would. Jiri had to endure a lot more than I thought he would for a while, because that was a hell of a performance from Rakic for a bit there. Jiri's legs had no business continuing to work. They were getting absolutely destroyed. But as I opened with, the man is a maniac. He willingly chose to, similar to Max Holloway, just that they have this ability to be like, I am going to ignore this. And especially in Max was kind of still in the fight. Jiri was like losing the use of his legs a little bit. And he was like, I am just going to keep walking forward until my body doesn't allow me to. And because I keep walking forward, I'm going to break this man across from me. And that's exactly what happened. It's just, and Jiri doesn't even throw that much. Like, his hands are down a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it's just that pressure of having a dude on you all fight, no matter what you do, whose pressure is that heavy and who's that much of a threat. And eventually it gets to you, man, and you're going to get hit with some shots. And it started to happen. And Jiri kept pressing, and eventually it spiraled away from Rakic, even though he was looking so damn good. Yeah, probably the best Rakic we've ever seen in round 1 of that fight. But it spiraled away. The pressure was just too much. Jiri's pressure is wild, and he made a choice to do what he had to do to win that fight, and it fucking paid off.
Well said. Yeah, man. Omar, any other thoughts?
It's a crazy fight, man, because you really didn't know how that fight was going to go towards the beginning of that round. Like Mark kind of alluded to, Rakic was looking great. In fact, he was looking like, if that was the way that the fight was going to go, we were just going to watch Jiri bounce around with his hands down by his sides, just kind of getting picked apart little by little, slowly. But the thing that was really creepy about Jiri is the amount of shots the kid takes to the face, and it doesn't look like it phases him at all. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't even think he's fighting at light heavyweight, and everybody in that division has pillow hands. Like, he just gets hit and just keeps going forward. It's like, it doesn't phase him. He doesn't react to him or anything. It's kind of ridiculous. But I love the tenacity from Jiri, and how could you not? I mean, in a fight where you could definitely argue he was losing, as short as that fight generally was, you could say he was losing that fight. Yeah. And he was able to come back, throw a few head kicks, land a couple of things clean on Rakic, make him lose all his balance, and just put the beats on him. I think he went cage to cage, post to post with him a couple times during that sequence, and just never let him go. And that's the kind of stuff you want to see out of somebody, especially at that level. But
yeah,
what a wild ass comeback from Jiri Prochazka.
Yeah. Prochazka continues to keep me as a huge fan of his fighting style. I'll echo the same sentiment Mark said earlier about Charles Oliveira. He's not a point fighter. He's just going to come and make it a war. He just gets into wars and he turns every fight into a firefight. And we love to watch it. We love to see it. And he's just kind of like this technical brawler and a character to boot. And he's just must-see TV, man. He's must-see TV.
He is.
Okay, real quick, any names you guys want to throw out about potential next opponents at 205 for either of these folks?
Yeah, I'll give you Jamahal Hill for Jiri, which I discussed earlier already. I think that's an easy one. And for Rakic, I don't know where Nikita Krylov has been. He made this great run where he all of a sudden was in the mix, and then we just haven't seen him. But I think Krylov could work, and I even think our boy Khalil could work.
That was where I was going.
Wow, Khalil.
Yep.
It's his time.
I actually very much think that. I very much think it's his time.
Those boys would be ripping some fucking legs. My God, the two of them.
I don't even think Rakic walks out of there properly. I'm gonna be honest.
I like it. Okay. Anything about Rakic, or let's just move on?
We just did it.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Oh, Roundtree for Rakic.
Kill him with fire.
Okay. Sorry. I'm choking. Okay. In the featherweight division, Aljamain Sterling gets his first win at featherweight in the UFC, defeating Calvin Kattar in a unanimous decision across a 3-round bout. Mark, give us your take.
So this one caught a little bit of hate, and I get it. This was an insane card, and this was maybe the one fight that wasn't so insane on it. But, I mean, what can you really say negatively about Aljamain Sterling? The dude moved up to featherweight. He fought a guy who so many people wanted to point out has this great takedown defense, a guy who people figured whenever they were standing was going to be able to piece him up with the hands. And he fucking held Calvin Kattar to like 4 strikes, some absurd number like that. I don't know what the final number was. Like, what can you say? He absolutely shut down every single thing Calvin Kattar wanted to do. If Calvin Kattar probably had 5 different plans in his head going into that fight for how he was going to handle different situations and how he'd win in this spot, how he'd win in that spot, he didn't win in a single fucking spot, not in a single 5-second span of the entire 15 minutes of that fight. So how can you hate on Aljamain Sterling? And Dana didn't either. And Dana has hated on Aljo in the past. And he even kind of said the same thing. He was like, dude, he handled him. So props to Aljo, man. He fought a perfect fight. He took Kattar down multiple times, which everyone was so wondering if he could do. He was perfectly fine on the feet. He was winning on the feet. Kattar couldn't even figure out his movement. He couldn't figure out how to get inside, how to get off. I mean, he had nothing. And I get it. He's been out for a while. He's coming back from an injury. Maybe rust played a part in it, but you got to give Aljo credit. That was a pretty dominant featherweight debut.
It's true. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, we talked last week about how Aljo was going to have a lot working against him. You know, I kind of put Calvin Kattar's reach and his height and things like that from a striking perspective very similar to something he was going to have to deal with Sean O'Malley. You know, not skill for skill, but just in terms of the physicality of it, just a bigger, wider Sean O'Malley. And Aljamain, I thought, dealt with it extremely well. Way better than Sean O'Malley. And he was able to really become a lot more, do what we thought he could have done against the Sean O'Malley in avoiding the strikes, taking down Calvin Kattar, nullifying the striking, and just overall being more dominant. Obviously, like kind of Mark alluded to, the hate and the criticism that Aljo gets a lot of the time comes from the fact that sometimes there's no finish, right? There's no finish, there's no brawl, there's no, crazy shit going down. You can't really blame Aljamain Sterling for not wanting to do ridiculous shit when he doesn't need to. We've seen Aljamain Sterling be a lot more active on the feet when he has to be. We've seen Aljamain Sterling finish when opportunities present themselves, but he's not the kind of fighter that seemingly is going out of his way to finish a fight that he doesn't need to put himself in danger to do so for. So in a card where everybody was, I mean, by this point there were already a couple of finish like movie moments on this card, so I get the look, the visuals of it when you juxtapose this fight to almost any other fight on this card. But the reality was Aljamain Sterling, I thought, did a fantastic job. I thought it was a great fight from him. And hopefully he does even better in his next fight. Maybe now he'll be more comfortable at 145, comfortable with the cut, comfortable with the way he feels in there. And maybe we'll see something even more impressive in his next fight.
Yeah, man. And speaking of his next fight, Omar, staying with you here, what should his next fight be at 145 pounds?
So Aljamain Sterling walks in at number 8, just above Calvin Kattar. Honestly, man, you could give him a dude like Arnold Allen, and I'd be perfectly fine with that.
I love it. Mark, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I was looking a little higher, but I honestly don't know if any of them work. Because first of all, I've said this one on here before. I think him and Volk would be really cool, but I'm sure that's not happening at this particular moment.
Jesus.
But him and Evloev and him and Ortega would both be awesome to watch. I would love to watch the grappling exchanges in either of those fights. The only thing is we might be getting Evloev against Ortega, which kind of leaves Aljo out. So in that case, then I don't hate the Arnold Allen idea.
I want Diego Lopes versus Mavsar. Run that shit back. Let's go, baby. Diego Lopez.
I don't think you can make Mavsar do that right now, man. I really don't.
Make Mavsar do that shit. Do it.
He's so high. He's so much higher up. He already did it. How are you going to tell him he's got to beat the same guy again?
I'll tell you this. If Mavsar utters the words, "No one wants to fight me," he's a bitch. I'm just saying. Right? You're saying no one in the top wants to fight. That's fine. But Diego Lopez has made it known. He's trying to fight you yesterday. Fair. So don't say no one wants to fight you, because that is inaccurate and you're ducking Diego Lopez.
It's true.
Fair.
It's true.
And
we riding for Lopez, baby.
On the Arnold Allen note, I actually like Allen and Kattar to run it back since we never got a result in the first one. So, and they're both coming off a loss, so I don't hate them running it back.
Like it. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the UFC debut of the former PFL, multiple-time PFL champion and tournament winner, Kayla Harrison. And she gets it done in her UFC debut, getting the win over the former UFC bantamweight champion, Holly Holm. The fight ended in the second round via submission via rear naked choke. The official time, 1:47 of round number 2. Mark, give us your take of how Kayla Harrison looked in her UFC debut.
I think she looked all right. She did okay. She's pretty fucking good, I would say. That was light work against a girl who we've seen give a lot of fighters problems over the years. A girl who there were some people even going into this fight who were like, man, Kayla might have trouble with her at range. And if Holly could just stay up, stuff a couple of these, Kayla could be in trouble. And man, Kayla was never in trouble for a second. And first of all, Holly was very willing to grapple. She even tried to initiate that takedown in the first round. That shocked me. I did say last week how Holly is so prone to wanting to clinch that I was concerned about it. So I guess I shouldn't say it shocked me. But like, man, you would think the game plan would be, I am going to keep separation between us as much as I possibly can. And it was not. But she paid for it. And Kayla looked good. Kayla looked good on the feet. She looked stupid strong, which we knew. But I mean, hey, now she was cutting down to 135. So I guess there was a little bit of a question mark. Totally fine. Totally full of energy. Strong as ever. Maybe even more strong against 135ers than we usually see her against, 45ers or even 55ers. The judo was fantastic. The wrestling the top game was fantastic. Ground and pound. I mean, all of it. I don't need to dive into it too much because it was all very obvious how good she was and how easy of a time she had in there. And then obviously gets the finish, which is a nice big statement for her in her debut. And she's well on her way. She is going to have a short road to a title shot. I will tell you that.
That is true. Omar, your thoughts?
Man, I mean, it's difficult not to watch Kayla Harrison and not remember the good times with Ronda. I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody get somersaulted in place by another woman? You know what I mean? Like Kayla Harrison was not only putting Holly Holm on the floor, she was literally chucking her upside down before she did it. I mean, it was a beautiful use of her judo. You don't see it. You don't see shit like that from men in MMA like that. You don't see shit like that from other women in MMA. I mean, it's a very specific skill set that not a ton of people have, and even more don't know how to defend against it. And her execution on a lot of those throws is very, very quick, right? Like a lot of guys or people you see, a lot of them have to set up and get themselves in a position or whatever. Like Kayla Harrison clinches. It doesn't matter where she clinches. There's a throw there. Whatever it is, there's a throw there. She knows what it is. She knows how to execute it, and up your legs go. And that was the story for Holly Holm, man. I mean, she was consistently trying to fight for her way up and then just consistently getting put back down. I thought Kayla looked fantastic. She looked strong. Her arms are absolutely insane. I mean, I can only imagine how strong that woman actually is when she wraps her arms around you. I thought she was absolutely impressive, though. And I think especially for somebody like her who's trying to do what she's doing now, where coming over from the PFL, you know, having won the money that she's won there, coming over here to really prove herself as the GOAT, and to see her do what she did in that fight, it's really difficult for me to believe that she's not going to put up or even beat everybody else in the division right now. And it's very difficult not to automatically think about, damn, I wonder if Amanda could beat this girl, right? Like we start getting all of these bubbling things in our head because like the performance was amazing. And no shade, we just gave Aljo a lot of props, but it does show the difference between somebody like Aljo, who's moved up in a division, right? Who's doing something very similar to what Kayla Harrison is doing in coming into something they weren't a part of before in a different division, different promotion, different division still too. And Kayla Harrison puts on a monumental performance, something that solidifies, goddamn, not only does she deserve to be here, but she deserves to fight for something real, deserves to fight for that title, deserves to fight Amanda for that GOAT status. And then you have somebody like Aljo, who at this point you look at that performance and you go, yeah, he deserves to be here, but like maybe one more, right? Maybe one more, maybe two more. I don't know if the title shot's really what makes the most sense based off of that performance. And it's not to say he had a bad performance, but Kayla had a little bit of that extra credit on it, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Mark?
What matchups?
Matchup?
If Raquel and Pena is happening anytime soon, which I'm not sure what the latest is on that, then I think Kayla probably waits for the winner. If not, then my guess is she fights whichever one is the one that's available. But either way, I think she does end up champion, and I think we are on a road to the return of Amanda Nunes for a monster fight between the two of them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I feel like I heard that Pennington was injured. There's nothing official about that online.
I did too. I couldn't find if it was like injured, like she's going to be out 6 months, or if it was like injured so we can't book this for another month or two. Like I didn't really know.
I will say Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison is a fight that I need to see sometime before I die. The WWE-ness that will go down in what would eventually be a real nasty fight is amazing. No one has wanted to verbally fight with Juliana Pena. Not Raquel. I mean, Raquel doesn't even want to do fucking promo for her own title shots, let alone anything else, right? Like, she didn't build that fight at all. And Juliana Pena does a lot of that work on her own. And I just think that Kayla could give as good as she gets from Juliana Pena. And I am here for all of that. It just, honestly, man, Kayla Harrison is kind of like the female Michael Chandler in a lot of respects. Like, they come here with that WWE mentality, but still present such a real solid martial arts foundation that really makes them a goddamn problem. So I love it, man. I need more Kayla Harrison ASAP.
Love it.
Also, I'll go Holly versus Misha on the other end. It is time.
Okay.
Oh my God.
For that rematch to happen. I love it.
Yeah,
Love
you're
it.
not into that, Omar?
No, I am. I just didn't even know I wanted that again until you said it out loud. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow,
a
we're
great time to
there.
run that back now. Yeah.
What are we now? What was that? 2016?
Fucking, it might have been 1999. That's how long ago.
Okay, let's move on now to the last one. I believe that was in the prelims, and we'll go into the
Here we
early
go. Omar about to
prelims.
talk for half an hour. Buckle up, ladies and gents.
About Diego Lopes defeating Sodiq Yusuff by knockout due to uppercuts and ground strikes. The official time, 1:29 of round one, so it only took 90 seconds for Diego Lopes to dispatch of the Nigerian welterweight Sodiq Yusuff. Omar, take it away, but let's get a little bit more of a clip going so that we can get out of here before maybe midnight.
Well, this won't take that long because the fight didn't take that long. The real things to really take, what I really took away from these fights was how much power this man generates from no distance at all. The real things that ruined Yusuff's life in this fight were the uppercuts, and it was 2 uppercuts, short and sweet, right from the inside.
Yeah.
And they turned Yusuff's face completely around from within the clinch. Diego Lopes is a problem. I've said it before. I'm going to continue to say it. He was a problem during the Mostar fight when he first came into the UFC on short notice. I think it was like 2 weeks, maybe even less than 2 weeks. He came in and made a statement in a loss. What I remember taking away from that fight was Diego Lopes is a fucking monster. And if you give that kid a moment to have a real camp, people are going to have a hard time fighting that kid, let alone beating that kid. And I think that's what we've seen consistently since that Mobstar fight. So I'm here for Diego Lopes, man. I think people are still sleeping on him. I say throw him in the deep water. Throw him in the deep water. Give him somebody real. Put him in a top 5 fight, and let's see what happens.
Let's go.
I actually just lost you guys. You said throw him in there with what?
With a top 5 fight.
Oh.
Right now, he came in at 14. Sorry, hang on. God damn it. 14.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Omar said, there's not a whole lot to say. A very quick fight. But, I mean, the kid is just, he's dangerous in every single scenario. Like, he's one of the, he's like the featherweight Charles Oliveira. And there used to be a featherweight Charles Oliveira. But, like, that's what this dude is feeling like. And it's wild because his pre-UFC resume just doesn't match like what we are seeing from this guy in the UFC. Like, it's not any dominant resume. And in the UFC, he's just fucking smoking dudes. Like, I don't know if it's been only since he linked up with Grasso's camp that his striking has hit the level that it's at. And maybe that's the difference here. But my God, this kid is dangerous as fuck. He blitzed Sodiq Yusuff. There was nothing Yusuff could do about it. Got caught multiple times. And yeah, I mean, he's exciting as hell. I'm not going to go top 5 quite yet, but I will go Giga Chikadze.
Oh, baby. I love that. I like that a lot. Ooh, man. Any other thoughts, Omar, before we move on?
No, I'm already pocketing that Mobstar fight. I want him to get that one back real bad.
I'll throw Nathaniel Wood out there for Sodiq. Maybe on the UK card. That would actually be cool.
Okay, going up now to the lightweight division. My man, the great libertarian Renato Moicano defeats Jalin Turner by knockout via ground and pound in the second round. The official time 4:11 of round number 2. Motherfucker. Okay. Mark, go talk about Moicano and how he looked. He almost got finished, but didn't, and comes back and finishes Turner.
Yes.
Pretty impressive stuff.
I love this guy, man. I really do. First round, obviously he had some trouble. That was one of the weirder things I feel like we've seen. Jalin Turner has no one to blame but himself. Because I don't know if he just, his head is off from the way he knocked out Bobby Green last fight. But like Moicano hit the ground, yeah. But like his head never even hit the mat. His back hit the ground and he was already popping himself right up. So I don't know how Jalin Turner thought in that moment, like, I'm going to walk away here. This fight is over. So he fucked that up big time. I don't even know if he didn't walk away, if the fight would have been any different. Because like I said, Moicano was popping right up. But maybe Turner could have jumped on him, of course. But yeah, he blew it. And then, unfortunately, I like Jalin Turner. I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but it is seeming like the book that we are learning on Jalin Turner here is that if you can drag Jalin Turner into a dogfight, you're going to win it. And it's what happened here. I mean, again, Moicano shows that he has no problem getting takedowns, none. And there was a time, a few fights back where people were like, "Oh yeah, his jiu-jitsu is so good, but can he get it there?" The motherfucker can get it there. Drew Dober and Jalin Turner, two guys who have had some showings where their takedown defense has been pretty solid, and two guys in a row where Moicano had zero problems getting the fight to the mat. So he's improved a lot there. And then, yeah, he put it on him. He outworked Jalin Turner, and he broke him. And again, this is another one of those where I'm sure the adrenaline had something to do with it, with Turner, again, his own fault, but thinking he won and then realizing he had to keep fighting. You could tell even on the reset after he tried to walk away that he was like, fuck, like he almost didn't even throw another punch in the rest of that round because he was kind of off. But yeah, fucking Money Moicano, man. The guy doesn't quit. He's in there for a scrap. And if you slip up, he's going to get you. And he did.
Yeah, man. Omar, your thoughts on Moicano?
It's hard for me not to imagine how much money Moicano leaves on the table by just wrecking his post-fight interviews. You know what I mean?
What do you mean wrecking?
Well, because it sounds like the first time I think that he'd done this new Moicano rant where he's basically motherfucker this and all this other stuff. Like the UFC's like, hey, don't curse on TV because we're on TV, right? Like they give us shit for it. Don't curse. And Moicano's like, fuck you. And so they did give him a bonus as a result of that. And
I see.
he talked about it before, and he's like, they tell me I can't curse, so I'm not gonna get a bonus. Then fuck the bonus then. And he's just off on his rant.
He's starting to become Arab as this continues.
Listen, not the first time the Arabs and the Hispanics get confused. I guess he's not Hispanic technically either, but anyway, Moicano might want to rethink his strategy, because if he was anywhere near that $300,000 bonus of some kind, he would have absolutely wrecked it with that post-fight interview. So the fight itself, though, was insane. I mean, Jalin Turner really screwed that up for himself. There's no other way about that. That's something that I can't imagine is not going to literally eat at him minimum for a few months. I mean,
he should have beat him. He should have beat him.
That was his. It was his fight. It was his fight on one of the biggest stages he's ever going to fight at. There won't be another UFC 300 of that kind, I don't think, in his career at this point. No. Right? UFC 400 is probably another 10 years away or something like that, or another 8 to 10 years.
2032.
Something like that.
2032. I actually saw it today.
What year are we
on? They have things
8 years.
Projected out.
Well, if you count,
if you just put a pay-per-view every month, it falls in 2032.
Wow.
Sometimes there's 2 a month or whatever, but you're around somewhere between 8 to 9 years. I doubt Jalin Turner fights on that card. You know, it's possible. We've seen guys in the sport for that long, but my point is, he really screwed up a monumental opportunity in a monumental stage. And Moicano did just the opposite. He took the opportunity given to him by Turner at that point to survive and really made him pay for it. I mean, beat him from post to post past that point. It was another one that was just kind of crazy to have watched come back the way that he did. He can't say anything about Moicano, man. The ground game is he might be the Damian Maia of the UFC at this point, right? Like where we saw Damian Maia and just knew that if you got in the cage with him, 2 things were bound to happen, almost guaranteed. You were gonna end up on the ground with him, and you were gonna end up on bottom with him. And that seems to be the thing with Moicano, and you can't stop it. And he'll look at you in the face and tell you, this is what I'm going to do. And you can't do a damn thing about it.
It's true. It's true. Man, I love me some Renato Moicano now, man.
He's a character,
man. Dude. He is such a character. I love it. I'm here for it.
I think he's
the way he tried to
too. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say the way he tried to bamboozle Joe Rogan to be on his podcast was hilarious. That shit had me dying. Joe Rogan was trying to politely be like, nah, man, but he didn't want to like ruin his whole night right there in the middle of like 25,000 people. Yeah. So, but it was one of those moments where I was like, weird.
He's like shaping himself every time he wins and he gets the mic. He's leaning more and more into this persona of like this America loving Brazilian guy. He's like the Brazilian Kobe Covington.
Yeah, that's right. I love your First Amendment. Your First Amendment's great.
Dude, he fucking invokes Ludwig von Mises in the Austrian School of Economics.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it.
He's a character. He's a character for sure.
Okay, a few more here.
But to conclude it, I feel this man deserves a big fight, and I think him and Beneil Dariush would be awesome.
Ooh.
Oh God, yeah, let's go.
And I'll go
Let's
turn.
go.
I'll go Turner and
Moicano,
Dober
moving on
the other end. The last two boys to lose to Moicano.
In a split decision, Jessica Andrade gets the win over fellow Brazilian Marina Rodriguez down in the women's strawweight division. Let's talk about it real quick. Omar, give us your thoughts on how this fight played out and Andrade getting another victory.
I thought it was a close fight. I did not watch this fight back, but when I was watching this fight, and I picked Andrade to win this fight by unanimous decision, but I thought Marina had done enough to win this fight. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm glad I was because I got the pick, but it just felt like Marina had won that fight. But it was a really close fight in my opinion. I thought the second round was the round that I gave Rodriguez. But it wasn't one of those rounds where you couldn't make the case that Jessica had won that round. I thought Jessica had won round one. I thought Rodriguez had clearly won round three, but I thought the round two for me, I thought went to Rodriguez, but it seems like it went to Jessica for everybody else. So there we go.
Mark?
Yeah, MMA Decisions is pretty hugely behind Jessica. I'm looking at it right now. But yeah, I did have it for Jessica. I mean, it was a close fight for sure. And it was a tough one to score because of the fact that there were long stretches of the fight where Jessica was kind of getting pieced up, where not in round one, Jessica won round one. But then in round two and round three, there were long stretches where Marina had really found it. And she was like in her groove and, kind of just, cranking out her little game of fists in your face and keeping Andrade on the back foot and where she looked like she was kind of taking over the fight. But then Andrade would have these moments where she kind of finally got inside with some pressure and landed one big one. And then it would become like 7 big ones in the next 20 seconds, where it was like this big burst of significance for Andrade that would almost counteract the prior 2 minutes. So it was like one of those weird fights to score that way. And round three, I did not think she did enough. I thought Rodriguez got round three. But round two, I thought she did. I thought the late moments in round two were enough to swing it to Andrade. It was kind of a big barrage at the end there. And, yeah, I mean, when it went to the cards, I knew it could have gone either way. But I thought it was a tricky matchup for Jessica, just size-wise, length-wise, style-wise, just having to deal with the volume and rely on her own power and ability to kind of use that pressure and get in. And she did, just enough. Like she found the success she had to find with the game that she had to make it happen. So I give her props. She has fully bounced back now after that kind of shocking losing streak that she was on, having won 2 in a row here, and she's kind of right back in the mix, almost as if she never left.
Yeah. Okay. Let's match them up.
I say it every time, but the timing actually works right now. Jessica Andrade returning Carla Esparza. It has never happened. It needs to happen.
It does need to happen, man.
And then on the other end, Amanda Ribas, assuming she is going to go back to 115, which she has alluded to, I think it's a good time to run the rematch between her and Marina.
Okay, down in the unless Omar, do you have anything else to say about matchups? You're cool with that?
That's all pretty good. I don't know what is going on with Carla Esparza.
I heard
last we heard
back.
What she, but like, why is it taking her so long? She got married forever ago. Did she have a kid?
She had a kid. Yeah.
Oh,
like a month ago, it came out that she was like ramping up to return.
Okay, all right.
So I feel like the timing works now.
Nice. Okay. In the lightweight division, Bobby Green looks good against Jim Miller, getting the unanimous decision victory over Jim fucking Miller. Bobby King Green proves victorious. Mark, staying with you, give us your thoughts on how this fight played out.
It played out pretty bad by the end of it for Jim Miller. My God. But yeah, it was funny in round one because round one, we got a really competitive fight. And Jim Miller was actually looking pretty good. And I was kind of watching it like, what the fuck is going on here? I was like, why does Bobby not look faster? Like, why does he not look slicker? Why is he getting hit with everything that Jim Miller's throwing? And I still don't know what the answer was. I don't know if it was just coming off his last fight. Maybe he wasn't himself. Who friggin' knows? But then by the time we're like a minute into round two, I was like, oh, there's Bobby Green. Hello. And from that point on, it was a whole different fight. I mean, Jim Miller was whiffing on a whole lot. Bobby Green was landing 3 for every 1 Jim Miller was throwing. Like it all changed to exactly what I thought Bobby Green could do in there. And it went south for Jim Miller real quick. Apparently now we found out he might have broke his hand in round 1. He also broke his toe at one point. He ended up needing 23 stitches around his eye. I mean, his face got torn apart by the end of that fight. But there was nothing he could do. Rounds 2 and 3 were all Bobby Green. It was a runaway train going downhill. I thought he was going to get the finish in round 3. I was actually pretty surprised that he didn't. So yet again, we give props to the toughness of Jim Miller because he could have easily folded and he did not. But yeah, dominance from Bobby Green. He looked really good.
Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, man, that one got hard to watch towards the end because Bobby Green was landing clean and landing often, and Jim Miller was taking him, I mean, left and right, man. I mean, like Mark said, his eye was completely blown up by the end of that fight. Didn't even know about his hand. Didn't even know about his toe in that fight until afterwards when he put out some kind of follow-up video on his Instagram just telling everybody how fucked up he was.
Yeah.
And even watching the fights and like, when the fight was over and my wife and I were watching these together, and she's like, what do you think the scorecards are? And I was like, I don't know, man. Could be 29-28 or 29-27. Who knows? And he was like 30-25, 29-27, 29-26. And my wife's like 25. Fucking hell. Like it was bad. It's bad, man. And it's, as much hype as everybody has been giving Jim Miller to be on this 300 card and giving Miller the love and all that, giving him his flowers and all that stuff. Like damn, he got messed up in this fight. It was rough.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Let's talk real quick about Bobby King Green back in the win column. What could be next for him at lightweight?
He's the guy for Patty, man. I've said it before. I think it was like 2 fights ago I said it. And now Bobby brought it up himself. And I'm about it. Again, I keep bringing up this card, but 304 in the UK. Patty's going to be on it 100%. Put him across from Bobby Green. And I think it's a perfect fight.
Like it. Omar, your thoughts?
It has to be Patty. It has to be Patty, especially with that promo. I mean, they're selling it themselves. Just don't make more work than you need to.
That's true. That's true. All right, one more here. The opener for this historic card, UFC 300, went down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the bantamweight division. Deiveson Figueiredo gets the win over Cody Garbrandt by submission via rear naked choke. The official time 4:02 of round 2. Omar, give us your thoughts on how good Figgy looked in this.
Figgy looks fantastic, man. It's really interesting to see what he looks like when he's not draining himself completely. And he's a lot faster and he seems a lot more responsive. And the dude seems just as goddamn strong at 135 than he did at 125. it's a rough go for Cody Garbrandt, man. It's hard to say what's going on with his career and where he goes with his career. Like, he doesn't really seem like he fights the same way. He doesn't seem like he approaches the game the same way when he was successful. And granted, you're fighting a lot better competition, but he's just never seemed past Dominic Cruz to really live up to those like top tier expectations. And I feel like the more we put guys in front of him that are legendary and legacy fighters and things like that, it just seems like he's bound to falter. And especially against a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, who like hitting him with a baseball bat probably won't put out Deiveson Figueiredo. You know what I mean? Like, Figueiredo is a guy that not only hits very hard, but is also very well rounded. And watching him take Cody to school on the ground was not what I had on my bingo card. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy performance of Figueiredo, and I feel bad for Cody, man. I wish there was some sort of prolonged success to what he had early on in his career, but it just doesn't seem like it's working out that way.
Yeah, man. Mark, your take?
Marcus.
Mark?
Hey, there you guys are. Fucking lost you for a long time. That was a long one. Yeah. So I'm not really too mad at myself for taking Cody in this fight, to be honest. This was the other one that I got wrong on this card, along with Charles. And I knew it was a risk when I took it, but he looked pretty good. Like, round one kind of was like how I was thinking he could win that fight. He looked fast. He was timing Deiveson. He was catching him coming in with some clean shots. I thought he won round one. And at the conclusion of that round, I was like, man, this is going to be an interesting fight. I figured Deiveson adjusts and maybe things get a little crazier and whatever. But what I did not see was it just becoming the grappling clinic that it did. Like, Cody, in his recent fights, has been looking pretty capable on the ground. So even when Deiveson got him down, in my mind, I was like, all right, like, we're going to be all right here. He'll probably get up in a few minutes. Like, no real threat. And he never got up again. I mean, Deiveson was just totally patient, worked methodically to his spots, and obviously found the sub and ended the fight. So yeah. I did not think he would have that much success that easily on the ground. So props to him. Props to him for, and not that he needed to. I don't think he maybe would have been fine on the feet, but I think he was like, you know what? I'm having a little bit of trouble on the feet. Let me just freaking switch this up, and it worked like a charm. Got himself a big win. So yeah, I'm not horribly down on Cody. I mean, Deiveson Figueiredo is really fucking good, and like I said, I did think Cody looked good, but yeah, he couldn't get it done again.
Give us your thoughts on what could be next for Deiveson Figueiredo at now bantamweight.
I think Petr Yan's the fight. I think that's the perfect matchup. The only thing is, I know Yan picked up a bunch of injuries. I'm not exactly sure how long he's out for. If he is out, maybe we end up with like Cheeto or something like that. I don't even know what the other best move would be. I really like the Yan most of all, but I don't know if Omar knows how long he's out for.
I don't, actually. I was thinking more towards the Cejudo part of things. I don't really know what Cejudo is doing, but I mean, that's a fight that never happened at 125, I don't think. Should happen now. Did that fight happen?
Yeah, correct. No, they didn't fight. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Jesus. Yan tore his fucking ACL.
Oh, well, he's gone.
Wow.
When did he tear?
In the fight, in the song fight. Oh. Damn, I remember he tweeted that he like had these like 3 different injuries, but I don't think I processed that any of them were that big of injuries. God damn. So yeah. All right. Well, he's not going to fight Petr Yan in his next fight, at least.
That's true.
So in that case, I mean, Corey'd be awesome, but Corey's fighting Umar, I'm pretty sure. So then, I feel like it's got to be Cheeto or Henry, one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be Umar.
If Umar beats Corey, but...
I guess that wouldn't make any sense if he did beat Corey. If he pops all the way back up, he pops all the way up there.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, right? Is Umar and Corey official? I saw them both tweet about it. I don't know if it actually got made.
Got to go to the Tapologies.
Yeah.
It's not on Sherdog.
It's not on Tapology either.
Huh. So who knows?
They might just be trying to get that fight, but yeah.
And then I'll give Cody Chris Gutierrez. I feel like he's been good enough that he deserves someone who's at this level to see if he can solidify himself a little bit. But if he loses that one, then we're on a different path.
It's true.
I feel that.
All right, let's conclude this episode by a little fight announcements with Omar.
Let's do it. We are going to start off with Diego Ferreira versus Mateusz Rebecki. That has been added to UFC St. Louis card on May 11th. We have Randy Rude Boy Brown back in the mix against Elizu Zaleski dos Santos. That fight has been added to UFC 302. That's what they had to
do to me? They couldn't let them both fight someone else? Christ.
We have Roman Kopylov versus Cesar Almeida, as we alluded to earlier. That fight is going down at UFC 302 as well. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa will be co-headlining UFC 302. Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov also on that card. Headlining UFC 302 is Islam Makhachev versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Man is looking to get paid in full.
You said Almeida got Romanov? Is that who you said?
Almeida got, yes, Alexander Romanov.
Wow, I missed that one. Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Tercios rebooked for the third time. That is going down on June 8th. Punahele Soriano back in the mix against Miguel Baeza. That's been added to the UFC's June 8th event as well.
What weight?
I'm actually... What?
What weight is it at?
Welterweight.
Wow, Puna dropping down. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a very good match considering both of these guys have had trouble losing or trouble winning fights, I should say. Yeah. So I'm actually really interested in that fight to see how that goes. I think it's a good fight.
No, it's a good fight.
And the biggest news that came out of Dana White's mouth this weekend after the card was the return of the notorious Conor McGregor off of his Roadhouse stint. He is returning finally, almost a year later. I think the TUF was a year ago this month, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it?
Sounds right.
It's about right. So it's been a minute. And it's finally going down. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, headlining UFC 303 on June 29th. It is a welterweight bout happening at 170 pounds, 5 rounds.
Why 170? God. Okay.
McGregor is gigantic, dude. I don't know, man. He's a big boy
dude,
now.
You knew that shit was going to be 170. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's it.
Roadhouse McGregor is
yes. This is Roadhouse
jacked.
McGregor. Could have been a middleweight. God damn it.
With that said, don't be shocked if Islam beats Poirier and then Conor beats Chandler. If they're just like, we should do Conor and Islam right now for the lightweight title. Don't be shocked.
Nothing would shock me when it comes to Conor McGregor
or Conor Poirier again.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll do that one that quick.
No. Okay.
No.
Who knows?
They would do Conor versus Islam if Islam beats Poirier.
Money-wise, I think they would.
They don't, especially with Arman waiting there. I'm just saying, knowing the UFC, if Conor fucking yells that into a microphone, you know how quick these wheels can turn.
That's true. That's true.
Last one we've got is actually Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda. That fight's been added to UFC's July 20th event. That is all we have for you.
I just used Nathaniel Wood for a booking. I didn't see that one.
Well, boys, we've done it
question
again.
Real quick.
Yeah, go
If
ahead.
Conor does call out a champion, I'm actually curious. Do you think it's more likely he calls out Islam or Leon?
Islam.
I would say Leon, to be honest.
Part of me thinks that he looks at Leon and thinks he can beat him.
Because he's a stand-up fighter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
More
God,
so
Liam's
because
gonna
he's not a
be much bigger
Dagestani
than
wrestler.
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like if
true,
Conor
that's
fought another wrestler, it probably wouldn't even be that serious. But the Dagestani thing, I think he's like, listen,
And it
if I
would
don't
give him a
have
chance to be a triple weight champ, which is
Yeah.
he'd be the first.
True.
Either him
I
or
think at the end of
Pereira.
the day,
Let's see who
that's
gets
what
it
Conor
first.
McGregor I feel like is trying to do at this point. I don't really know if like just getting the belt back is really the thing that he wants so much as he just wants to set new records and do new things and make sure that his name is in as many little entries in the history book as humanly possible at this point.
I do think Leon would be a tough matchup for him, though. With that said,
I think Leon is fucking huge compared to Conor McGregor. That's a tall order, man.
that's why.
Yeah.
And Leon can wrestle. There's a lot. There's a lot.
He's not
That's true.
He's not Islam when it comes to wrestling, but like
That's true
you
too.
when you compare the size, the general size of Leon, on top of the fact that he does have decent enough wrestling at this point in his career, yeah, it's a situation. Yeah.
Well, boys, we've done it again. And folks, thanks for sticking with us. If you've been watching this episode, we're going to take a few weeks off from the podcast and sort of recharge, and we'll get back in touch with you soon. Any parting shots, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Hopefully by then,
man.
your boy will be back training to usual, but it is almost 3 weeks and your boy hasn't thrown a single punch. I'm losing my fucking mind.
Dude, you just had fucking surgery. I need you to chill for a minute.
Oh, your boy's chilling, but going crazy at the same time.
Okay.
Going crazy.
I do
All right,
one
guys.
parting shot, and it's go
Yes.
Knicks.
Yes, baby. Second seed. Let's go.
Yes.
Can't believe we're leaving the MMA podcast on a Go Sports moment.
Come on.
I, for one, I don't agree with the takes that they should have tried for the third seed
No,
and for a favorable matchup.
no, it's stupid.
What's that NFL coach's name who was like, you play to win the games?
Herman Edwards.
Herman Edwards. Thank you. Yeah. Let's fucking go. Dude, second
Agreed.
seed in the conference? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Now
Give Jalin Brunson the fucking MVP.
he's not the MVP, but yes,
He's not. It's going to be Jokic.
probably.
I'm going to start bringing up anime shit one of these days.
Yeah. Now
You
he's
guys
not
are
yet.
going to know what the hell I'm talking about.
So, Mike, I'll text you. All right, boys, let's go to bed.
Adios, amigos. We'll talk soon.
Adios. Peace.
Peace.